North Carolina's history is a storied one. Stories of courage.
Abraham Galloway was recruited by Union generals who gets involved in clandestine activities.
You don't know how much history you really are making.
Stories of freedom.
He participated in the Revolutionary War.
Stories of great talent and creativity. We're sharing the state's rich African American history.
It really is a story that in many ways is the quintessential American story.
The 35th United States Colored Troops, an American story.
Forward, march. One, 2, 1.
The 35th United States Colored Troops originally organized as the 1st North Carolina Colored Volunteers.
Color right, march.
During the Civil War, this area was a medical facility. This was also a parade ground. This is a unique and hallowed ground for the 1st North Carolina Colored Volunteers because this is where they were first mustered into service, and this is where they trained, they marched, they drilled.
Ready, front.
At the Academy and the AME Zion Church in New Bern, North Carolina, the U.S. Colored Troops drilled, ready to do battle in the Civil War, ready to fight for their freedom. To preserve the history of the 35th U.S. Colored Troops, these reenactors carry their stories and their names.
My name is Sergeant William Henry Singleton.
William Henry Singleton, my sergeant, he saw that there was an opportunity for African Americans to strike a blow for freedom. When New Bern failed, some say was liberated, the Confederate officers, the troops, went down the road 30 miles to Kinston, and William Henry Singleton saw that as an opportunity to stay here and to help his people.
One.
Born in 1843, a mulatto of mixed race, Singleton was sold to a slave farm in Georgia at age 4. He ran away at age 7 and returned to North Carolina, where he would eventually become First Sergeant in Company G of the 35th U.S. Colored Troops. He recruited 1,000 men to join the fight.
Based on the military tactics that he learned and drills, he drilled 1,000 men through the streets of this city with corn stalks for weapons. And then when he had an opportunity to travel down the road to meet President Abraham Lincoln with Burnside, General Burnside, the commander of the army that liberated New Bern, in his book, he expressed to Abraham Lincoln the willingness of the African Americans here in New Bern to fight for their freedom.
I'm Cenas Hill, born into slavery in the year of 1845. Fought with the U.S. CT Colored Troops, and if others could leave the plantation and fight for freedom, I could as well.
The unit mustered here and prepared to disembark in July. It went down to Farley Island, 1863, and there was part of the buildup of military forces there at Fort Wagner. We've heard of the attack on Fort Wagner with the Massachusetts 54th, where the 1st North Carolina Colored Volunteers were there too. They were down at Foley Island and then left, went down to Georgia, eventually to Jacksonville, Florida. And the Massachusetts 54th and the 1st North Carolina Colored Volunteers performed rear guard duty as the main body of soldiers retreated. Heroic stand allowed them to retreat back to Jacksonville, Florida. Over those black soldiers who fell on the field, there were several atrocities committed against them. Very few of them survived the battle. Very few prisoners were taken. And that was a sad part of the American story, but it also represents the courage and the fortitude in which these black soldiers joined the military to strike a blow for their freedom.
After fighting for freedom, Sergeant Singleton mustered out of service 3 years later, moved to Connecticut and then New York. Cenas Hill made a life in his home state.
There I received some training at High Point, North Carolina in furniture. I became a minister. I began to use my carpentry skills to build in the area of Jones County and Trenton.
He'll use the money he earned to purchase land from a former plantation. The Hill family continues to own land in Jones County more than 150 years after their ancestors' bravery.
They stepped up because they knew that one day you and I would stand here as American citizens, full American citizens, subject to the rights and privileges of all Americans, and to instill in me the opportunity and the belief that I can do the same for my children and my family. That is the American story.
One.